with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris both largely off the campaign trail yesterday, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz took the spotlight in his first solo campaign appearance as the Democrats' vice presidential nominee. That's John Mellencamp's Small Town, for those who are listening closely. On stage, Walz defending his service record after Republicans criticized him for once saying he carried weapons in war even though he didn't see combat.
I'm going to say it again as clearly as I can. I am damn proud of my service to this country. And I firmly believe you should never denigrate another person's service record. To anyone brave enough to put on that uniform for our great country, including my opponent, I just have a few simple words. Thank you for your service and sacrifice.
Trump's vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance, has criticized Walz for leaving the military after 24 years to run for Congress. Vance replying on social media, quote, "Hi, Tim, I thank you for your service, but you shouldn't have lied about it. You shouldn't have said you went to war when you didn't, nor should you have said you didn't know your unit was going to Iraq. Happy to discuss more in a debate." Vance does seem to be a bit more on message than the top of the ticket that he's running on. In an interview with Univision, Donald Trump continuing his personal attacks against Kamala Harris.
We're going to get rid of inflation. Inflation has hurt the Hispanic population so badly, but it's hurt everybody. She's never going to do anything about inflation. She has no idea. She doesn't even know what it means, the word means. And she's forced to go with my policies. You know, I came out a long time ago with no taxes on tips. And 2 days ago, she said no taxes on tips. She doesn't even know what it means.
Doesn't even know what it means. It's that piece of the approach that many Republicans do not want to see Trump take in this reset race that has clearly moved in Kamala Harris's favor.
And the one thing Republicans have to stop doing, quit whining about her. We knew it was going to be her, but the campaign is not going to win talking about crowd sizes, talking about what race Kamala Harris is. It's not going to win talking about whether she's dumb. It's not, you can't win on those things. The American people are smart. Treat them like they're smart.
All right, joining us now, our panel's here. Isaac Dovere, CNN senior reporter. David Frum, staff writer at The Atlantic. Maya Wiley, president of the Leadership Council on Civil and Human Rights. And Matt Gorman, former senior advisor to Tim Scott's presidential campaign. Welcome to all of you. Wonderful to have you here. Isaac, that soundbite from Nikki Haley really stuck out to me, honestly. Like, get over this. Like, stop whining was the word that she used. What do you make of what she had to say there?
I mean, how many times are we going to have Republican officials go on the air and say, please, Donald Trump, will you focus on policy? Stop talking about all the things you're talking about. We go through this over and over again. Every couple of weeks, it feels like. And it seems like Donald Trump feels very clear of the kind of campaign he wants to run here. It's the kind of campaign that worked for him in 2016. It is not, at least according to the most recent polls, working as well for him at this moment against Kamala Harris. We'll see what happens here with it. But it is the way that Republican officials seem to have resigned themselves to dealing with Donald Trump.
Well, and David Frum, you capture it this way in your latest piece in The Atlantic. You say that Trump's campaign, you call it the Trump campaign's please shut up phase. Yeah. You write this is Trump's problem. For all his jibes at her intellect, Harris is managing the mystery appeal effectively, whereas Trump, who endlessly congratulates himself on his MIT professor uncle's brains, is fast arriving at the will you please shut up phase of his political descent.
Mike Murphy, the Republican campaign consultant, a decade ago, or nearly a decade ago, said that asking Donald Trump to talk about policy is like teaching Charles Manson to foxtrot. He can manage a step or two, but then he's going to put a pencil in your eye because he's Charles Manson. And Donald Trump is Donald Trump. And as you just said a minute ago, I mean, it's astonishing. Of course, he's an insult comic. That's what he is. He doesn't know. He knows less about policy than anybody's probably ever run for high office, ever. But what he does know is how to abuse and denigrate and humiliate and demean. That's what he does. If you don't like that, he's not your guy. And if he is your guy, don't pretend he's not like that, because he's like that.
Matt Gorman, I mean, I know we were talking about this on Monday.
Talking about Monday, yeah.
Here on around this table. Is it just a pipe dream for these Republicans who are trying to say this, trying to convince them to do this? And what impact does that ultimately have on Trump's ability to win?
I think there's a difference between, say, Kevin McCarthy saying it and Nikki Haley saying it. Nikki Haley might be the imperfect messenger, since for all the baggage and running against him like that. But you're right, Kevin McCarthy came out with this on Fox on Monday, and so this has been a consistent kind of theme throughout many sectors of the Republican Party. There was some more policy in there, but you're right. It's like, oh, and she's not smart enough. So you get there just a little further than it was, say, a week ago, but then you still get that overarching message. You're right. Like, he's 78 years old. There's a wonder of how much he's really going to change.
Well, and he was quoted, Maya, in the big Haberman-Swan New York Times opus over the weekend as telling donors at an event, "I am who I am," right? Like, what you see is what you get.
Well, and we've known this since he ran for president in 2015. This is not really news that Donald Trump's. An insult comment is actually being very generous to him, David, I think. I mean, he is offensive, and he has been extremely willing to personally attack people, from mocking people with disabilities to hurling, suggestive racial epithets, one I would consider to be racial epithets. And none of that is new. So when we turn now to what we're hearing from him, including calling a highly qualified Black woman incompetent, that actually reads a certain way to a large number of the electorate, which suggests that he can't put himself forward as a qualified candidate, frankly, not because he hasn't been president, but because he hasn't been able to articulate what he is going to do for the American people. I agree. I think that's what people are looking for, and that's never who he has been.
It's certainly become a core Democratic argument that Trump is about himself, right? I mean, that is something we hear from them. Isaac, I know you hear it, I'm sure, on numerous phone calls every day as you go about doing your job. Can we talk for a second, touch on the service question? This was the first time Walz has addressed this on camera. He just pushed back and said, I don't denigrate anybody's service record. Do you see this as something that's actually going to stick and hook in with the electorate? Or what are the early signs on this? Or is the way they're dealing with it effective?
Look, it is working for certainly the Republican, Trump-leaning voters to have something to attack Walz on. It's not clear whether it's resonated in a deeper way. I do think what's interesting about the response to it is, on the one hand, Walz took until now to really speak about it himself. So that's a week of this almost. But on the other hand, even from what the campaign was putting out, and it reflected what he said yesterday, it is this attempt to say, we are the patriots here, right? To have it be not the way this has been played out in past elections where the Republicans have said they're the patriotic ones. Walz is not going back on the attack. He says, I'm proud of what I did, and thank you, J.D. Vance, for your service. That is something that it seems like we're going to get more of in the convention next week in Chicago. Democrats saying we're the party of America and of unity, and it's the Republicans who are on the attack of what this country is supposed to be.
I mean, David Frum, you were a big part of Republican politics as this exact dichotomy was kind of at the center. John Kerry, George W. Bush, all of that. How do you look at this?
I think these guys they don't understand what the machine is and how it operates, so they can't make it work again. The reason these debates in 2004 were so powerful with John Kerry is that this country ripped itself apart over the Vietnam War. It was a trauma, for the support, the opposition. John Kerry had come to national prominence at a young age as a vehement opponent of the Vietnam War, which he criticized not just as a mistake, but as a crime. He accused Americans of committing atrocities. People remember, in 2004, that was a memory. Then in 2004, he campaigned as a war hero. And so the question you ask is, wait a minute, you have denounced this war as like equivalent to Genghis Khan's, literally, Genghis Khan's depredations against humanity. And now you say, but elect me because I was a hero in Genghis Khan's army. How does that make sense? What J.D. Vance is doing, it's just pedantic. You served as a command sergeant major, but you didn't retire as a command. Like, if you're interested in the federal pension schedules, that's interesting. If not, you think, that's just boring and tedious and nitpicky. And everyone is going to say, look, Iraq did not tear the country apart the way Vietnam did. And by the way,
It was divisive, but
it
I
was
absolutely
divisive.
take
And
your
by the
point,
way,
yeah.
J.D. Vance used to support the Iraq War, and now he says he opposed it, which he has done only after he became a Trumpist. So what is your point, except to say, I'm looking at the federal pension schedule, and the rank you had in service, you did not retire with because you didn't complete enough paperwork to retire with that rank and that pension.
I think the other thing here, though, is Walz was 24 years in the National Guard. J.D. Vance was the years he spent in the Marines. Let's not forget, Donald Trump did not go to Vietnam, right? And so it is.
He went to Studio 54,
well,
which was every bit as tough.
I made jokes about that being like going to the Vietnam War.